You don't have to live the way you're living. Like, God's holding you. God's held you to this point in your life. I know you want to give up on so many things, even life. But you're gonna make it, because God can show you so much greater than the pain you feel. God can show you so much more than the loneliness you feel every night. God can show you so much more than anyone's acceptance can give to you. Because God is freedom. God is your peace. Me and my family were never really wealthy. We were usually lower middle class, under the poverty line. So we moved around a lot. We moved from starting in New York, slowly moved down to South Jersey. We landed in Sicklerville for most of my childhood. But because of that, me and my family never really my siblings never really fit in to places especially for me personally, going to school. I never really made friends easily. I never really I was always ended up being picked on. I don't know why. It was just, I don't know. It was something where every time I went to a different school, I always ended up being that kid who maybe only had one or two friends and a couple friends, handful of friends, and just getting picked on by most of the kids who were seen as popular, seen as more, desirable, I guess, to everybody else. And it made me really feel have a lack of belonging, and I wanted to fit in. I wanted to in a way meet the standards that for some reason I wasn't meeting. I often try my best as I went to these different schools to just try to make friends. I'm an artist, so oftentimes I get asked by kids can you draw and whatnot for me, draw something for me, and I thought that made me friends, and it usually didn't. So after all the moving, we finally land in Sicklerville when I'm in 5th grade, and same thing happens. I have maybe one or two friends, and I just get picked on by kids. Even the kids who, there were some relationships I had where I was cool with some kids sometimes, and then they would bully me with the other kids the next. So it was a really weird aspect of just my life, of how all that worked. And so I generally don't like my grade school experience at all. I'm glad I'm just beyond that part of my life. But it definitely got worse as I hit middle school and high school. And it I guess the really whole aspect of my story really begins when I'm 12 years old and I find out about pornography. I was in the library with a friend and other people who were friends of that friend who didn't like me, but they were there. And they searched something on the computer in the library, and they were just and they closed off real quick. And I was like, what's that? What's that? Because they were laughing, they were giggling, they were all having a good time. And they ended up telling me what they searched up and just had what to type in. So I went home and I looked this stuff up, and I was kind of by that point just going through searches, looking at pornography and things like that. And I don't remember all the innate feelings that I had in that aspect, but I do remember being so ready to talk to the other kids at school about the fact that I'm watching pornography now, what I was watching. And because I usually never fit in people's conversations, I didn't have that demeanor, that mentality that other people seem to have. I don't know why. But I was just like ready to be a part of the conversations, I guess. But that like kind of ended up after that kind of locked me into that, like being caught up in pornography from that young age. It just kind of locked me in for a very long time, just being stuck in that, caught in that. But it also gained that aspect that it's like, even though I was doing things that apparently everyone else was doing, everyone else was a part of, I still wasn't fitting in. I, like, trying to get in conversations about girls, trying to do all these things, I wasn't fitting in. I wasn't really meeting the standards that everyone else had for making it into the circles. And then so like, I go through middle school, I get into high school, and I joined the football team. I wanted to be a quarterback, so I was like, because it just looked like a fun position, I wanted to try it out. And it was even a little bit of reason why I joined football was because I felt like me and my dad didn't relate too much. So I joined. My brother was already playing football, and so I was like, well, my dad is always watching football on Sundays. I should do football to like, fit into like, what we can talk about. And we did start having conversations after that about like football and things like that. So that was like nice. But even that decision was in the ass was like fitting into something. And football is where a lot of like my hurt comes from, a lot of pain comes from. My freshman year, I again didn't fit in, wasn't really liked by the people who were on the football team. I was the honors student. I went out to all honors classes, but then again, I was on the lower end of the AP classes, the kids who were there. So I was seen as the dumb kid in those classes. So I didn't fit into the kids who were athletes, and I didn't fit in the kids who were smart. So I was in this very small space for myself. And because my time was more so around athletes and the other people like that, I tried a lot more of my time trying to fit into those spaces. So like my freshman year, I was like bullied a lot. I was picked on by a lot of kids. Kids would often take my stuff or like hit me in practice when I was out of the play, like just because they thought it was funny. And I just had no respect from really any of my teammates, which kind of made demoralized me because going into sophomore year, I wasn't sure if I wanted to play football, but I don't know what kept me going, but I went back. Going to my sophomore year, a new head coach came in to the football team, and he came in with this demeanor, being like, I'm gonna, build up the program, get everybody ready. And I remember him coming up to me one time during the practices, and he was like, hey, like, what position you want to be? He was like, I want to be a quarterback. And he was like, okay. And he was like, it seemed like he was kind of like, trying to build me up, trying to like get me ready. And the interesting thing about it is like I had a very healthy relationship at home. I feel like my family is a very healthy dynamic. But going to practice, going to school, it was very different. And for the next 2 years, my sophomore, my junior year, my coach was like just demoralizing me. Like he would say things like "you suck" and stuff like that. Like yell at me when I made mistakes. And sure, in some ways he did that to other people. But I remember like near the end of my junior year, one of my friends at my lunch table said like they didn't try hard in practice because they didn't want to get yelled at the way I did. So I was seen as like an example. And my father mentioned later on that there was a lot of parents who heard about the things that was said to me specifically. And so we didn't have, like, our football team wasn't good. There was a lot of things that went down with that. So, especially with the coaching, but I just remember him like just constantly berating me, but then he would also say like, I'm doing this for your improvement, doing this for your better. And I, like, like I said, I had a healthy relationship at home. So it was like, there was no reason I didn't trust that. Like my parents always told me to trust adults that were in front of my life. And I didn't have my teammate the back of my team either. So after going through sophomore and junior year, I had to go through a situation with the AD and the principal, and it was a lot of it was really difficult because I didn't want to be like the forefront of all that, the center of all that, but through all that, my teammates didn't have my back, and that was a lot of issues with like I had with male relationships, because even through high school I tried fitting in, because like after, like I said, in middle school with the whole pornography thing, the next step from pornography is like, or at least you get in high school, it's like now you got to have a girlfriend. Like it's like because everyone was getting girlfriends, so I tried having girlfriends, still didn't fit in, like because like I would get attention when I had girlfriends and things like that, but it still didn't put me in a space that like they respected me, and I feel bad saying that because these are other people's lives I was like attaching myself to, but I was just kind of trying to like fit in because it was like, oh, there's attention, someone's giving me attention, I'm going to date them, and then people will see I have a girlfriend, so then I'm likable, and so yeah, so like even after all that, I never gained the respect of anybody around me, like a lot of men around me, which was like I said, a really big issue for me, and never gained the respect of my teammates. And even after all that, I remember contemplating, because I was really good at track, contemplating not going back to football my senior year, and it was and I remember my dad, he just kind of asked me later on, he was like do you want to like, you know, you can leave, like or you can stay and fight, like stay and like keep doing your thing. So I stayed. I kept working at it, and around like 2013, me and my family got separated because we lost our house. So but I was trying to train for football. So my dad sent me down to Georgia, where somebody who I knew was at and training us for football. And down there was like, I was training with some teammates and stuff like that. And a lot of the time people were, my teammates would always tell me things like, Noah, you got to like loosen up. Noah, you got to like, you know, have sex. I'll like loosen you up a bit and stuff like that. And like, they said like I was like too rigid, too Bible driven, XYZ. And I wouldn't even say I was the best Christian back then either. I was just kind of living on my parents' standards. But they always said I had to like loosen up a bit, kind of do these things, have sex, like smoke weed, drink, stuff like that. And third. So when I was down there in Georgia, I had no parental supervision. There was no one really there to protect me, hold me, keep me from doing anything. And I didn't do anything because like I necessarily wanted to. The first time I smoked weed, it was because I was like, there was like, I was basically threatened. I was like walking past their room, they were smoking. They're like, yo, like come in here. I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to go to sleep. And like, bro, if you don't come in here, I'll punch you in the chest. And I was like, well, no one's going to protect me if I don't. So I was like, I just went in there and I smoked. And it was like, I didn't enjoy it. I cried myself to sleep that night because I hated it. So, but I didn't, it was always that kind of mentality of like not trying to like, cause even though it wasn't, even though I cried that night, it didn't feel like, oh man, like this is the worst thing ever. Cause I just didn't, I really kind of like, I could have stood my ground. He punched me before. I was like, it wasn't like the worst thing ever, but, in my eyes at that time, but I didn't want to be a killjoy, which is a lot of things like throughout that time. I was like, I just didn't want to be a killjoy because like everyone was having a good time. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing, no parental supervision, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and like I said, all that time I'm training for football. I'm training really hard for my senior year. I'm going as hard as I can. I come back from Georgia after my family finally get a home. Like I go back to school my senior year, and I remember coming onto the practice field, my first practice back, and the first thing somebody tells me is that, oh, Noah couldn't handle old coach's training from the coach from my junior and sophomore year, and that's why he was like, and that's why he got him fired. And my mom was like, guys, I could walk out this field right now because it's like, well, like what else do I have to do for y'all? What else do I have to do to give you guys my best effort? Like I put in training, I put in time, I spent time away from my family to train for this, and that's the first thing I heard coming in there, and that kind of just bled into the rest of the season. And I remember just like, and I still got to play. I did what I had to do. I made it through my senior year of football. But I remember the last game of the season, one of the guys took a picture, and there's this like big picture of all of us on the team. And to everyone else, was like, yeah, we won the game. Like, we won the game. We won our last game of the season. I was upset. I was unhappy. And I didn't care about anything. I was like, I don't care about this team. I don't care about anybody here. And I remember just standing behind everybody. Like, you could see my head, like, kind of pricking out of the picture, because I didn't really want to be in it. So yeah, that was just kind of like the chapter closing on like a hard time. So like, like I said, just trying to fit in, doing all that stuff, spending all the time with football. I thought I was going to play football in college. Got recruited by Keene. They didn't respond to me after a little bit. So I did really well in track. Like I said, I was good at track. So I got recruited to go to Rutgers in Newark. So it was away from my family. I thought it was like, yeah, it's a good time, because I really hated being where I was at. I didn't want to go to community college. I was like, oh, that's just being around people from high school. I don't want to do that. So I just went over to up in Newark. And it kind of just amplified all the feelings that I had. Before, just like the feeling of like loneliness, the feeling of not belonging, because now you go from, like I said, going from the pornography to having the girlfriends. Now I'm at the point, it's like, oh, now you got to start having sex. Like, it's like, I mean, people were having sex in high school, but it was way more talked about in college, because it's just that kind of environment. So I started messing around with girls, just doing certain things. And I never really had like sex, but like when I look back on it, like I definitely don't think I waited. I definitely don't feel like that. I remember a conversation we were having with a team, and I waved it off at the time, but we were having a conversation with the team, and they were just joking about sex, and like and then I made a comment as opposed to that about like kind of my experiences I've been having with some of the girls on campus. And later on that day, one of my friends, he said like, dang, no, like, and he wasn't like a Christian, but he was like, dang, no, I thought you were a virgin like me. And it almost kind of looked like he like lost respect for me. And I tried waving. I was like, nah, bro, I didn't really have sex, but like that moment I really did. I was like, dang, like, I didn't feel good about that. And it really made me, like, as I went through just like trying to message different girls and things like that, it made me realize like how far I kind of went. And then on top of that, my issues with, I would say I gained some decent relationships from my teammates over at Rutgers, but my issues with the coach, he was not as bad as my high school coach, but his personality and mine didn't match up. There were times where he's like, definitely like, he like blatantly just like hit me. Like he was my parent or something, which I didn't like at all, but I'm an adult in an adult space. Like no one's gonna like step in and stop that. And to everybody else, that was like normal to them. So sometimes I kind of think like, I don't know, sometimes I sit back and I'm like, am I crazy for thinking like, like that was actually like abusive or not? I don't know. So I still question that to this day sometimes. But yeah, I just like, I went through a lot. I had a lot of injuries, had me have to sit back and reflect a lot. So after all that, I didn't really feel comfortable going back, especially because of the coach. So I just left. And he called me. I remember he called me one time and he said, and I was trying to talk to other colleges, see if I could go there. And then apparently, I guess they contacted him. And then he was like, I remember the last thing he said to me, he was like, whatever, bye, and just hung up on me. A grown man, just like treating me like it's like not being an adult and having a conversation about it. Especially for someone who's dealing with issues with male relationships, stuff like that. So I go back home. I'm just like kind of doing my thing. I end up going to a community college in the area. And not too long after that is when I met my future wife, which is India, which is a really big part of my progression and the whole aspect of my story about how I became free of trying to fit into the spaces, because I don't know what it was about her. It's like we don't relate at all, even to this day. There's so many things we don't relate on in terms of just interests and things like that. But I was able to be myself around her, and that made me feel a lot more comfortable in a lot of different ways. And as I ran track, I gained a lot of great relationships. One of my friends who's like a brother to me, like we have a relationship that's been going on ever since. And yeah, so it's, but so yeah, so you know, I meet my girlfriend, go through track at community college for about a year and a half, and then I end up going to Rowan, where I meet the organization Chi Alpha, which is a really big part of my journey, along with meeting India. And it was, but like, it wasn't like I went to Chi Alpha and everything changed. Like, honestly, even going to Chi Alpha was a grace of God, because we were in the first night, I think one of the first couple nights in my dorm, and India was like, oh, let's go to this party over by the way, because it was just like, you know, it was out in the courtyard. It was like people were just having a decent time, and we go there, and it was just like, but we, for some reason, we took like the long way around, and we ended up running into the Chi Alpha gathering that they were having, and I was like, wow, there's video games, there's ice cream. Like, I was like, we should just stay here, but she was like, oh, let's go over there, because I'm not really a party person. So I was like, oh, all right, fine, we'll just go. So we stay for a little bit. We're like, we don't like it here, so we end up going back, and they were like, just super kind, super loving, super caring. And I just felt very comfortable, very able to be myself in that space as well. But even then, the whole aspect of like like fitting in and like feeling comfortable didn't come over me until maybe a year later, being at Rowan, because I had to really like, and I didn't even get into a lot of this about like just my journey with the Lord. Like, I've grew up in the church. I've always, I kind of say that like I accepted Jesus Christ at 9. I truly understood my salvation at 13. And I really accepted the change in my life at 21. And so we go to this event that's happening at Rowan. It's called Carry the Love, which is run by this group called the Circuit Riders. And I meet this one guy. His name is Reese. He was a part of the group, and we meet. It was like kind of that funny thing. It was like I'm at this college Rowan. It's like a bunch of white kids around us. It was like the only 2 black guys in the room. So we're like, yo, what's up? Ended up dapping each other up. Talking and whatnot. They go to the event. It was a nice time. Like, they did worship, they did a sermon, and everything like that. And you know, the worship was fine. The sermon was hit a little bit. Like I said, I've been to churches before, so I've always had those kind of run-of-the-mill emotions that kind of like come with, oh yeah, Jesus. And then they're like, anybody need prayer? So I raised my hand. The guy who was preaching ends up praying over me. And then they start worship up again. As they start worship, I'm trying to, like, you know, just be in the moment, stuff like that. I don't really know what's happening. I really didn't know what to expect going to this event. I just kind of went. And then I see in the corner the guy Reese is standing there who I met earlier. He comes over to me and he starts praying over me. And I was like, okay, you know, again, prayed over again, whatever, that's fine. And it was like he started praying, and then after a little bit, he started like commanding like things at me. He was like, tell Jesus you want him, like tell Jesus you need him. And like I said, Jesus, I want you, Jesus, I need you. And he's like, no, like say it like you mean it. Like he's like kind of like yelling at me in the middle of the service. I was like okay, I like shouted it, and that was probably the first time in my life I ever shouted like that I need Jesus, and it just kind of triggered something, and all of a sudden I just started weeping like uncontrollably in such a way that I didn't understand. Like, I wasn't sad, I wasn't angry, I wasn't depressed. I was just crying. And it was just a mass, like I can't even explain the the level of how intense that feeling was for the first time in my life, being like, I'm just crying. I'm crying out all my pain, all my hurt, like everything that I wasn't even thinking at the front of my mind, but from the back of my mind, it was like God just brought it forward. And then like I remember him saying, he was like, yo, like just like there's nothing at this point, like don't worry about the music, don't worry about what's being said, don't worry about the people, it's just you and God. And for like at least like 5 minutes, I kind of lost my spatial awareness, and it just felt like I was in a void, and it was just me and God. And like after I opened my eyes and look up, it was just this weight just like lifted. And I was just in this immense joy. I started running around the room, like screaming, shouting. And it was such a freeing feeling, when I felt that I knew I got hit with the Holy Spirit, because I've never felt that kind of intensity before in my life. And I never felt so joyful just to be in the presence of the Lord. And that was really what began to stretch my lack of desire to fit into places. I was like, connected with Chi Alpha. I was doing a lot of that. So I was around a lot of Christian people who I could relate with in terms of my faith and things like that. So I didn't have to necessarily, I guess, like meet a standard, but I feel like little by little, God was like freeing me. God was like helping me little by little, and just showing me where He wanted me to be. I remember it wasn't until with my male relationships I realized that what I was dealing with in the sense of my marriage relationships, because we maybe like what was that? So that was like 2017. So 2 years later, 2019, me and my wife got married, and then we went to this fall retreat with Chi Alpha, and they were talking about like the whole weekend was about like father figures, and I was like, oh, I have a good relationship with my dad. It's whatever. Like I'm chilling. It's fine. And then it was around the second night, I think, they had us like write names down of people who like we need to forgive. I guess like it was male figures. I don't remember who it was, but the first thing that came to my mind was like my coaches, my teammates, and all that kind of stuff. And I just, and so it was like, I was just kind of there. I was kind of in the moment. Everyone else was having their kind of like sad moments, because some people don't always have like, the best relationships with their fathers. But for me, I was just kind of like, I don't really know what this is going to do for me. But I was like, let me get down, let me pray. Like, they had a group of people who were walking around and praying for people who they had designated to do that. And one of them was the campus minister, Carl, who's like a really dear friend to me, and almost like a father figure in a way. And so like I get down on the floor, I start praying, and like I said, I didn't know, like I was just praying just for the systematic aspect of it, like that we're in prayer session, let's pray. And Carl came up to me first, and he put his hand on my back, and I felt this like intense, like warming feeling that was like so comforting. That was like God was telling me like, I'm here, like you can rest. And I never felt that kind of like even after I got hit with the Holy Spirit, that level of comfort is like He showed me again in a supernatural moment that like, I'm your comfort. So He showed me first, I'm your peace, and the next He showed me I'm your comfort. And I was like, and I just started weeping again. I started crying. And I just couldn't control it. But then all these ideas, these thoughts came to my mind about how I treated my little brothers, because of all the issues I had with fitting in, because they were trying to follow in my footsteps. They tried doing a lot of things like I did, and I hated that. And I treated them so terribly when we were younger because of all that. There were so many things that were just rushing back to my mind. And I just I just started sobbing over it. I started like mourning almost over the boy I didn't get to be because I tried so much to fit in. I was being so hurt by the people who were around me. And I don't think I ever truly swept in that moment around in such a communal way where I was like weeping around others who I truly cared about. Because by that point, I gained a lot of relationship with these people who were in Chi Alpha. And I realized these are my people, like these men who are around me. Like I got baptized actually I got rebaptized because I was baptized around maybe 10 years old. I got rebaptized at that retreat because I was like, yeah, this is my true declaration. Like this is my true declaration of saying I want to follow God. Like I want to give my whole life to God. Like he's shown me too much. And it was just a scene where what we did, they asked us who would want to baptize us. And I asked for all my guys to be around me. I asked all the guys of the group to be around me because I just felt like that freedom I felt just being around a bunch of other men now, just how I was able to truly feel love from other men and other people in my group. That was my testimony there. We were doing testimonies and that's what I gave. I was to really the love that they all gave to me and the ability that I was able to see them grow in Christ, and truly give their lives to Christ as Christ showed himself to me. But God had to show himself to me first beforehand. It wasn't their kindness, all that stuff that really made my relationship with God grow. God had to show himself to me first so that I could start healing to be in relationship with them. And I guess just fast forwarding, because even after all this, I didn't have a story. I didn't really have a testimony at this moment. Even being here right now, I never thought I'd be here in this moment saying this is what my life kind of came to. But it was a couple of weeks ago, a couple months ago now, I did this event where I was presenting, as like I said, I'm an artist. I create manga, and I presented my company, and it's a Christian-based manga company that I've been trying to create, and to be able to say that, to be able to just stand up there, be proud of who I am as someone who is a manga creator that was picked on for being that when I was younger, not fitting in for that. And to say it's for Christ, it was such a freedom because even amidst all that stuff of me trying to fit in, that stemmed into the stuff I did for my sports. I tried being the best in my art. I tried getting the most likes, getting the most followers, seeing what other people like. But I got to that point where I was I just want to do this for the Lord. And when I was able to truly present myself as who I was and who he made me to be in the craft that he built me to really create, I felt free, and it took me months to sit, and I was on a high for at least a month and a half, and I sat in a rail and I talked to my wife. I was like, babe, I'm free to be who God made me to be. I don't have, and people like that. People like who I am. I don't have to try to fit into people's standards. I don't have to try to fit into this art space of being successful, try to fit into this football space of being successful, this manly persona that made me question my sexuality and so many things for so long. I was free. And that is the biggest thing that I gained from all of this stuff, all of these things that I went through, everything that I had to go through to this point, revealed freedom, revealed that God can free you from these things as long as you seek and pursue him. because it wasn't until I seeked him that he gave me better male relationships. It wasn't until I seeked him that he made me free from the bondage of trying to chase the numbers, of being successful in whether it's sports or art. And I'm just so full of joy on a daily, like knowing what he did for me, knowing what he gave to me. And yeah, it's just so empowering to know that there is a God that wants to break us from those chains of everything the world tries to put you in. And it's really helped a lot of my relationships that I build now. Help me be more forgiving and patient with the people around me, patient with my wife, patient with my family, because there's no expectation I have on them because there's no expectation on me. I don't put anything on them because God has given me so much grace. Despite the mistakes I've made because of my hurt, because I don't deserve it, because just because my hurt is not an excuse, but it's God's so good and he frees, he really does. So yeah, I don't know.
Now, what would you tell your 16-year-old self? You could talk to him today.
That there's hope. That you don't have to live the way you're living. Like, God's holding you. God's held you to this point in your life. I know you want to give up on so many things, even life. But you're gonna make it, because God can show you so much greater than the pain you feel. God can show you so much more than the loneliness you feel every night. God can show you so much more than anyone's acceptance can give to you. Because God is freedom. God is your peace. So hold on to the teachings that your parents have told you. Hold on to the things that you've wanted to latch on to, but that you've heard in church, but the world keeps trying to pull you away from. It may be hard, it may be difficult, but there's so much joy on the other side of it, I promise you. There's so much joy.